Hey girls, so I'm here on YouTube for the first time in a while because I felt called to talk about something very sacred. If you could probably tell by the caption, you know a little bit about what this video entails. And I've contemplated for a while if this is something that I just wanted to put out to the world or talk about because it's something that, like I said, is sacred. But I felt like this message could help someone, honestly. It could probably help a younger girl out there. It could help a older woman. It could help pretty much anyone because we as women all feel that our bodies are sacred to us. They're special. And, we really just do the best we can to take care of ourselves. And honestly, the truth is your body sometimes can be like, I don't want to say a portal, but it can feel things very deeply. So I'm just going to get into the video. So as you can tell by the title of this video, I am celebrating 3 years of celibacy. So my 3-year celibacy was actually a couple of months ago or a few months ago. I just missed the deadline on posting the video then, and like I said, I was contemplating it. I was just in this phase of contemplating, and here I am. I just really wanted to talk about it, so I'm here to share the truth. The truth is I've been celibate for a little over 3 years now, and how has it been going? It's been good, but it's been very difficult because you really have to have so much discipline, and that's just the simple truth. But when you think of the value of celibacy, the value of not sharing yourself with others, the value of what your motive is and why you're doing what you're doing, it makes it all completely worthwhile. I kid you not. So let's do a backstory about why I decided to go celibate in the first place, because I know a lot of people are probably thinking, girl, how does this even happen? How do you do it for so long? How do you even maintain this, right? So you have to have a motive or a purpose to really stick with it. So let's talk the real nitty-gritty down to the truth, okay? So I decided to stop just because I felt that I was unharmonized within. That's the truth. Oh my goodness. So let me explain. So I went to college, right? And you don't even really have to be in college, but when you're in a place where you're surrounded with a community and people who all share the same values, it can be kind of easy to get peer pressured into doing things. So I remember talking about doing the deed with a group of girls one time and how I felt doing it, and I thought it was sacred. However, the other girls I was speaking to, they did not see it the same way. So that's another thing. Some women, for whatever reason, don't see it the same way. They don't think that it's sacred. They think it's more casual. I just never felt that way in my life, ever. Even the first time, it felt special or sacred. And that's a story for another day, okay? But I do remember the first time that I lost it. I didn't know how to hold myself together. I felt so disappointed. I felt that I could have done better. I felt that I could have waited longer. And I did kind of wait, but it's like, okay, you could have waited longer for the right one, for your person. And it just was not that. So the first thing was like just disappointment after losing it the first time, right? The second was the sense of identity within myself and just wanting to be who I am and not led or mistreated by other people's values. So a value of mine is that my body is my body, to enter into my soul, my heart, my body, to touch me, to be around me even. That's sacred, okay? So I just started reevaluating and reassessing my true self aside from what society believed about it, because I feel society, like I said, they think that it's casual. They think that it's normal to do it platonically, when you're not in a romantic relationship, and you know the list goes on. So I had to reassess my values, and I said, absolutely not. If I do this again, it has to be worthwhile, okay? Thirdly, I did mention the essential purpose was just feeling like I was misaligned and I wasn't within harmony for myself. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but I was no longer at peace is what I'm saying. Just because of the deed. And it was really disturbing my spirit and soul. So I was like, okay, I'm not enjoying the way that this is making me feel after the exchange, you know, sometimes even during it. It's a lot of factors that go into it. And I just felt like I should not be doing it because now I had to sit with myself and I had to reflect and I had to think about how we could have done things from a mature standpoint instead of acting more like a young girl who's frivolous and careless, and you know, that's not me. I just had to, like I said, regroup within myself. It took a real mature conversation, sitting down, journaling, and honestly after heartbreak and after soul ties. I know some people don't believe in soul ties, but sometimes I really felt like I had, or like just a soul tie with a person after the deed that I just did not want. That would affect my mood, the way that I approached the world, my energy, and it was just really disrupting me. I hated it. That's the truth, I hated it. I feel like I lost myself in a sense. And not just lost my purity, but just lost my essence. And I felt like I knew where it was going. And it was because I was getting wrapped up and entangled with the same pattern again. And I said, you know, enough is really enough. It really is. And I feel like since I made the choice to commit to not doing the deed, I became so much of a better woman. Like I said, it takes a lot of discipline. You have to sit with yourself, look in the mirror and say, hey, like, it really takes growth. Because I know a lot of people who can't even go a week, a month, and I get it. And that's the point. It's really just this obsession with lust that I was separating myself from, okay? And what made it easier was connecting with religion, which is God, because I'm Christian, I believe in God, connecting with religion, connecting with my feminine energy, grounding myself. Oh my God, that's such a big one. Really just grounding myself, finding other ways to be satisfied without having to do the deed. You know, there's so many ways of intimacy in the world, in romance, and it's just not talked about because you don't always have to skip to the deed. You don't have to do the deed. I feel like, I don't know if it's today's times, modern times, that just thinks the deed is romance, but it's not. It's just lust. The deed is lust. It can be romance if it's implemented in the correct way, but usually it's no romance behind it these days. So I had to evaluate that as well. So that's a little bit about the why. Now I want to talk about why that's important to me, at least, or what it really means. So for me, I know a lot of people are kind of stuck to the idea of having a count or whatever they call it. For me, it was somewhat about the count in a way. I didn't want to feel like I get to a certain age and so many men have experienced me. That's the truth. I just didn't want that. I didn't want that for my husband. I didn't want that for my future children. You know, that's just not the legacy that I wanted to build or leave behind. It's just a woman who was super promiscuous. I don't know. That's just not who I am, and like I just thank God that I've made it this long and thus far. Um, it was difficult. I know I said this like 3 times because the truth is, it is very, 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 very difficult, especially when you're a young woman. You're in your early 20s. Your hormones are at an all-time high. It seems like impossible to do just because you're always sometimes thinking about the idea of going back down that path. You kind of just have to remind yourself, like, this is what we're doing and this is what we're not doing. This is why we're doing it. And, just center yourself again. So, yeah, that's a big one. So I just didn't want to be a person who had too many people experiencing me. Another thing why it's so important to me is because I feel that in order to be a very confident woman, in order to be a very, I don't know, I don't want to say leadership with the woman, but I know to get to where I needed to go at the time and kind of where I am now, I knew I just had to be focused and eliminate distractions, and that was a big distraction. Men, the deed. That was a distraction for me. So I kind of just said, we could take a cute pause. And I had no intentionality for doing it for 3 years. I did not. I did not. I did not. I was thinking maybe a few months, maybe 1 year. 3 years went by, and I'm always like, wow, I did that. I did that. I have to say I'm proud. I do. Because in a time like this, when everyone is so moved by the world and what other people are doing, and the deed is so normalized, and then being an attractive woman, and then men always wanting, a piece of you, sometimes a low effort, you just kind of have to set your boundaries. So I would say I am proud of myself, to say the least, that I decided to do this by myself, and it's not something that I've just talked about or flaunted. I've only told maybe a handful of people or of value to a man. That's usually a man's whole motive and reasoning behind wanting to court a woman, wanting to approach a woman in the first place, and then just having the sudden realization of the pleasure that they really get out of it. And then sometimes how on the other end, you're not always pleased, or you could feel depleted as a woman, or like something was taken from you. Men never experience that. And, as a woman, like I said, it's just something that should not be given away based on the fact that it is quite literally men's whole purpose, men's whole being, men's whole reasoning beyond why they chased in the first place. And like I said, this goes back to the feminine energy, the feminine essence, right? I felt that locking it away made me, in many ways, feel like I was a more feminine woman, and it softened me to taking the lustful spirit, or what some people call as a Jezebel spirit, out of myself. It really softened me in a lot of ways, because I don't have to be male-centered anymore. That's a large factor. I wake up and I don't center men as much. My whole reasoning, I feel that everything about me changed in a way, because I feel like there was a little bit of a more sensual appeal to me when I was practicing doing the deed versus when I stopped. And it's not something that a lot of people may have noticed, and if they did, they probably didn't know why. But I just noticed somewhat of my period being given back to me, almost as if I'd never done it. Like, I kid you or not, it's the most satisfying, I don't know if satisfying, relief, it's a relief. It's like this big It's like oxygen. That's what it feels like. It's quite relief. So now, today, I'm just focused on keeping my promise with myself. It's like a covenant that I have with myself. You know, being that it's 3 years, that's a remarkable length of time, especially, I'll be quite frank, especially for my age, how young I am. I feel that practicing celibacy is something that women twice my age do, and not because they are an aged woman, but just because your mindset has to change. Trying to keep my same motivation behind why I'm doing it, okay? So, like I said, 3 years for now. I'm aiming to make it to a 4th year. I mean, it would be amazing if I could. Like I said, I'm not really having a record of the amount of time. I'm just being more intentional on why I will do it again. Or for example, say this grand man came into my life. For me to do it with him, he would have to treat me quite literally like a queen. He would have to make my life 100% easier, and it's just so simple as that. My covenant is with myself. It doesn't have to be shared with the man, because it's not to please him, it's not to satisfy him, it's not to arouse him or make him feel that I'm more worth it. That's not it at all. It was just for me to make me realize my worth again, and make me realize how much I am worth and how I should be treated by a man, especially if this man wants to experience me, or, you know, anything in that sense. So I want to also talk about religion as well, because when I first wanted to share this story, I didn't know if I was going to talk about religion a lot, but I feel that talking about it is important, because I feel that in ways I could not have done it without religion, because times when I was going to give up, I was reminded of my worth through God. I was reminded of who I am through God, and how much value that I innately have as a woman, and just by being me. So religion plays a really, really, really big part. So if you ever plan on doing a celibacy journey, I would say prayer, definitely prayer, maybe even fasting sometimes. It doesn't have to be for the longest periods of time. Worshiping God, thirdly, worshiping God. Like, I seen myself grow with God in so many ways when I became celibate. Going to church, attending virtual sermons, listening to the word all the time, reading my Bible all the time, because I felt that I had to find a way to be full. Not that the deed was filling me, but it was just that there's more ways to fill yourself up inside. There's more ways to experience joy, and more ways that are more rewarding than doing the deed, because you have to think, as a woman, doing the deed is not always rewarding, especially if this man is not your husband, especially if he has not put a ring on your finger. Seriously, that's another thing. I've contemplated even waiting till marriage, because now I'm like, okay, I didn't come this far just to come this far. 3 years, going on 3.5, are we serious? What man is going to come in my life and going to say, okay, yes, let's do the deed, and you haven't committed to me? You haven't seriously devoted your life to me? I don't know. I honestly may have to wait to get married, because 3 years is a very long time. It's a very long time, okay? So the next gentleman in my life needs to come with it.